Welcome to Accountants Law Pod, where accounting professionals and law firms converge. Hosted by Lynda Artisani, Sarah Prevost, and Stephen Libhart.
Thanks, Sarah.
Hi. Well, it's just the two of us today. So welcome back, everybody.
We're going to miss Steve.
We are. Understandably, though, a family comes first. So, but
always.
Yeah. So welcome back to the show. Lynda and I are going to have an interesting topic today.
Yeah. Well, what's so funny is that it is about cloud accounting and leveraging technology to streamline operations. But it's funny that I think about it. It's kind of been like secondhand. We're always been cloud accountants and we've been it for so many years. It feels kind of strange to talk about it. But then after being on QB Power Hour with Dan and seeing the uproar over the price increases in desktop and enterprise solutions, not everybody's in it. And I think if you asked about the fear surrounding it and why you might not want to go there, it would be a lot about, well, I don't want my stuff on the internet. I don't want Intuit having access to all my data. Valid points, right? Valid, very valid.
Mhm.
So I think that it just seems odd to think that you can't, I can't imagine not having, not being in the cloud, because I remember the years ago using Log Me In and, oh, your computer wasn't on. I couldn't do the work and you had to do it at night and the weekends when they weren't on the computer. Remember those days?
Yeah, I do. I never liked them because it meant that I had to have second best on my life performance and my planning. But what's interesting is if you think about it, a little devil's advocate, not for the pricing part, but just the cloud part.
Yeah.
We're pretty much all on the cloud. I mean, if I think about the banks that are around me, they're not as around me. They're not as available. The branches are very strategic, right? And so that's one thing. And
You
then
ever try to go to the bank, like just randomly? Oh, I think I'll go to the bank to take this.
you got to make an
You have to have an
appointment.
appointment. So that's changed,
Yeah,
right? So
that's changed. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, you still can do it, but it's also like the drive-through things. I see there's one that has an old drive-through and literally it's an employee staff parking lot now. It isn't for
is there a
driving
person
through.
actually at the window or is it a kiosk where you're
No,
logging
it's
in?
not even that. This one is like no longer where there's walk-up kiosks at this other
Oh, wow.
one. And then the ones that had, the old style where they had multiples where you could
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
well, those are all now, like you're saying, the kiosk style.
Yes,
That's it.
and then
Yeah.
the person in the kiosk, if you're actually physically wanting a person, there a lot of times they're in Rhode Island, which I think is funny because I'm from Rhode Island. Here I'm in Florida, calling up if I need an appointment or need to meet with somebody, and they'll tell me if I have support issue, and they're like, "I'm from Rhode," and they tell you they're from Rhode Island or whatever. I'm
Yeah.
like, "So am I." We'll speak the same language, but I think in cloud accounting, anything. I mean, really, when QuickBooks came out, it was all about here's your basic accounting, and you can layer on whatever you need to make it
Yeah.
work for your industry.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the beauties of QuickBooks. But then, like Dan and I were talking about the prices of, because the shock of the software going up is the thing. If you're an
It's a
accountant,
lot.
yes.
I
And
mean,
if you're
let's
an
be honest.
accountant, that's paying for it and bundling your prices, this is horrible. But so don't do that. But if you look at it from the perspective of, looking at the price increases, knowing that they come every year and they're large now. They used to be $10, remember? And now they're like, I mean, in the way it was done too with payroll, with desktop payroll, they actually added the fees. Remember there was never a fee per employee on desktop
Yeah.
payroll?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Now there is fees.
Yeah.
So maybe the price didn't go up that much
Mm,
month,
yeah.
but it's also the fees. So you can actually really raise the price of it's going to increase your prices. But then if you look at, we see it when we do migrations, taking people off of like a PC law or something, and what they're paying for that.
Hmm.
And they don't even get great financials out of that. And then you put them in QuickBooks, it's a big savings because the price, they don't have to have a server, they don't have to have all that stuff. It actually is less expensive. And software is expensive. I mean, you start looking at different softwares, you pay by user,
Hmm.
it's expensive.
Hmm.
So I just think
It goes back to that analogy of I don't know how you say it, the pound foolish,
penny wise, pound
penny
foolish.
wise, pound foolish,
Yeah, yeah.
something like it. But obviously spreadsheets aren't going to cut it. A lot of, especially in the legal profession,
Mhm.
it's really important to have things that's in a portal based available for your client to access in a secure way, making sure that you meet all these requirements. We do the same thing on our side. We're getting important documents like, someone's driver's license and or a bank statement. Email is not the correct form. But the beauty of the cloud-based software or cloud-based accounting in this way for servicing the accounting profession is that it is the freedom to work during the day. You have your own login, you have your own way to track things. You can assist very quickly. I can't tell you how many times we received, oh, I'm applying for this equity loan and blah, 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 blah. You don't have
Yeah.
to do the log me in crap. Sorry if for those of you that are still using it. Not
Is
nothing.
it even still around? Allowed me in? I
It
wonder.
is. There are some people that still use it, but any event, I think in this day and age too, we need a lot of visibility on things. I mean, honestly, you and I, we like to look at our figures. We like to plan ahead. We like to see what the impact is. A lot of businesses need that. And if you're in a system such as a server-based system, you need somebody to educate you on the module that needs to come through for the reporting so that reporting can come out in a space that you can now email out. Well, what's the point of that? I
And
don't understand that.
I think sometimes they think that desktop is more secure, but it actually isn't.
Mm,
It's that's the whole thing. But then
yeah.
sometimes you have to make sure you follow the steps to make sure your data is safe too.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
not automatic because it's in the cloud, it's safe. I mean, you could
Yeah.
grab an app or a software to integrate with QuickBooks and somehow connect it, and it can be not one that Intuit has worked with or whatever. And
Yeah.
then if they're not on the app's website and you don't know them, you got to be careful because you could be opening up Pandora's box. So I think sometimes it's best to do your homework before you add a software, know the software, know a little bit about the software, and that's all, but that's still all cloud-based. I mean, desktop, if you look at not being a cloud accountant, because it allows us, the other day we met with somebody that could be a client of ours, and literally I could walk there, but that doesn't happen with me like it
Yeah.
happens with you because you're
No.
in the city.
Yeah.
But I very rarely have anybody, when I tell people my clients really aren't in Florida, we have a handful, but they're not really in Florida. And when people are like, what? Your clients aren't nearby? No, I mean, we've got clients all over the country. And I think sometimes even outside the country. So it's that gives you that ability to be able to work that way where you wouldn't necessarily be able to work that way if it
Well, if you
wasn't
think
cloud.
about it, what is this upcoming generation doing? They're on all these different social media platforms. They're building businesses with all these different affiliate links, with all these different passive ways, in addition to whatever else they're doing. Business is not done. This is the funny thing about the current, not being political, but just the current climate of conversation. Business is done globally, really, and it has been
It
done
is.
globally for a long time. Software needs to meet those needs. Our people that are here in the States do business globally. And
Mhm.
then there's also just the kind of the natural space of what happens when you're in a cloud-based system because you're already there with your banking, you're already there with your utility companies, you're already there with all these core things. You're paying your mortgage online. It's very gone are the days that I see you walk into a bank with your mortgage check, right? Like
I
the
know.
checks are
See how much the world has changed though in
yeah,
such a short period of time. I mean, even
yeah.
when I log in on my phone, and this is
Oh
you
yeah,
talk
your
about the other
phone.
generation, they use this for
Yeah,
everything. When I
yeah,
log in on my bank website, I let it look at my face. It lets me in. I mean, I don't have
yeah,
and
yeah.
that's going to be even more so, I think, going forward in the future. In fact, just getting my passport and everything, and there's like a chip inside my passport card that wasn't in the last passport card that was
Hmm.
10 years ago. And
Hmm.
so technology's changed quite a bit, and even in that
Yeah,
10 years is long, really, in the
yeah.
technology world. But I think that,
Well, Linda, think about this. You're kind of onto something here. Your doctor's appointments. You
mhm,
go in, they want you to be in the portal to sign all the documents. And when
yeah,
you go in to the office, you have to validate things. Now, I know that's harder for certain age groups. I understand that, but and not everyone's at that technology space. But if you're in business and you're
oh,
running a
if
business,
you're in Florida, they're not all at that
yeah.
technology space. I could tell you from getting blood drawn this morning and watching people walk in, all you had to do was touch the app and say, I'm here. And then people are like walking up to the window and I'm like, oh, here we go. And they don't
Yeah.
know to like scan the QR code or that's
That's
not,
not intuitive for some people. And
uh,
we still live in a space where we've got the whole extreme, the whole, I guess you could say, seven-layer cake of
mhm.
everything going on, right? But in the space that we have software now, we can work from anywhere. We have
Mhm.
staff smattered about the states.
Yep.
We have employees working all different times. I mean, if you want to work your
Yeah.
9 to 5 in your time zone, okay, so be it. If you'd rather work a different set of time, we're not here to dictate what time you clock in and
No.
out. We just get the work done is kind of the idea. And there's a lot of people that are like that. There's a lot of that going back to the office thing. I understand enterprise software is in a space where it's kind of between cloud, hyper, you know,
I don't know how that works.
uh,
It's still a desktop product.
desktop product
The old
style.
desktop
Yeah.
enterprise.
And
Because
there's
they need
some,
a new one that too. So we have
yeah, there's some
full
features that are
enterprise.
cool, but there's
Yeah.
not in other ways, and it feels clunky. So it'll be interesting to see where the enterprise style softwares are going to lean
Hmm.
into. But I do find it very adaptable with communication right now. If you look at how many people communicate, you have text, you have Slack, you have Zoom,
Too
you have
many.
a whole slew of things that you are able
Yeah.
to communicate on.
Too many.
And
Too
how do you
many.
see it all?
But with the cloud accounting, I mean, if you think about it, we used to just work in QuickBooks and whatever reports were there were there. I didn't really work with other tools way back in the desktop days. And now with cloud accounting, we're able to layer, and you and I have layered on a lot of different
Yes.
software.
Yeah.
Software is probably after rent and wages is one of your top expenses, right? Marketing.
Exactly.
I mean, software is big.
Yeah.
We have to analyze that for our clients. We have to look at what they're spending money on. Just did that recently where we were like, you got 40 users here. Is everybody using it? What? I got 40 users? I didn't know that. And no, those people shouldn't be on it, but they're paying for the users because a lot of the extra softwares go by user.
Yeah. Yeah.
So but you want to streamline the technology because whenever you implement technology, it brings you to a space where anytime you do any automation, there's less room for errors.
Mm-hmm.
We have a firm that we work with that does some AI in the background with the bank feeds. There's a lot that you can do today, and it's only going to really, I mean, it's rapidly changing.
Yeah.
You're going to see it more and more and more, where some of the regular mundane tasks we do now manually won't have to be done manually. Will it ever take over for our job as bookkeeping firm for an attorney? I don't see that. Not in my lifetime. I don't see that
Yeah.
because of
Yeah.
the nuances.
Yeah.
Talking to a staff member this morning, and I'm like, yeah, every client's different. Every client has its little things that they like to do that are different. It's not a cookie cutter. I wish it was, but it's
Mm-hmm.
not. And we
Mm-hmm.
have to work to those pieces. But we try to add the software so
Mm-hmm.
that we know that if there's software out there, and it's hard to know every piece of software that's out there, the latest, the greatest, the best, you got to talk to your colleagues to learn what's out there. We're fortunate we have two couple of good channels that we can kind of
Yeah.
merge together. But it's important to be able to do that and use the technology to stay above and ahead of everybody else, your competition, anybody else doing this work. You want to be above where they are, at least equal, so that we're able to be that tech forward accountant that's thinking about the cloud and the technology. And nothing's more fun than taking somebody out of a paper centric, I got this billing software here, but it's not connected to this desktop software here. And I've got an envelope and I mail it to the bookkeeper with all the bills. I stuff them in and then
Mm-hmm.
she mails it back with the checks. Yeah, people still do it that way.
Yeah. Still do
And
that. Yeah. Yeah.
you want to be able to be that person that leaps in. And when you show them, just for example, Dext, right?
Mm-hmm.
Using Dext, they're
Mm-hmm.
like, wow, I didn't know this existed. Or
I know.
Relay Bank, or, bill.com if you're using that.
Mm-hmm.
That the ability to not have to stuff an envelope with bills, which is something we were doing 10, 15 years ago, not that long ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's changed that much.
I listening, talking about the various different softwares and there's a ton of tools that are just accountant specific tools to client facing tools. And, I'm thinking, my mind, I'm thinking like, wow, this was such a different conversation because we were kind of learning about them about 9 years ago.
Yeah.
And there was a flood of them in a different space. We didn't have as many repetitive ones in the
Mhm.
same space. We're also seeing a lot of consolidation of apps merging with other apps, of acquiring.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that's always, and you said this a little bit ago, is really important is what happens in one firm as a law firm or an accounting firm may not fit your work style or your workflow that like your friend's company would work. And we evaluate these for clients as well. We evaluate the tools and decide. And this has happened quite literally with one of our clients where, it was this tool. We worked with it. We mentioned a couple of times a software, a practice management software we thought would be better serving. There was resistance to change, no problem. We moved into another software that was recommended, and that was recommended by two staff people. Those two staff people don't work there anymore, and lo and behold, no
That's the
one's in the
worst.
product, right? And we saw this actually in an article on an enterprise software where there was a push to use a particular product, and that individual who pushed it lo and behold, left the week it was going to be implemented or something. So when I'm reading these things and I'm thinking about this, and you mentioned it earlier, which is you might be the same company in the outside service offerings, but you're so tailored in what you do with your clientele. And I feel
Yes.
that way about us. But the part that I think is really important is like going back through and saying, is it serving you well as best? How much of a change is it going to cost me to move from this product to this, or having nothing at all to something? There is I guess there is a quantifiable efficiency price when you have nothing to something. But when you
Mhm.
move from product to product, that's when you start to lead and you start to listen to what it is that you need to be doing for growth. And I always feel like what we try very hard to do is say, hey, what's the leader in the area that you're serving? And then what is the software that's going to grow with you if
Mhm.
you're looking for that growth? If you're looking for that here and now, that's going to give you that here and now, then get used to it. We've done it ourselves. We tried something for the here and now. Now we're growing into something else.
Yeah.
And we don't want to make a change again.
So sometimes it's better to kind of evaluate and look
Yeah.
at where they're at and see in that future tunnel where they're headed and maybe not put them in the stepping stone one, go right into the one
Go
that
right into the
fits
next
them
one, right?
perfectly, but will fit them in the
Yeah.
near future.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
too, part of what we do, and I never ever, if you asked me this back when I first started doing this work in 1999, if you
Hmm.
ever said to me, oh, you're going to be the person they go to about tech software, your clients are going to come to you
Oh,
and ask you advice. I
never.
never would have believed that. I would have thought,
No.
"What- are you kidding me? What would I know about a law firm's technology
Yeah.
software? But we do because we take people out of software that's not working. We move them
Hmm.
into software that will work. We've
Hmm.
trained in the software. So we have to know a lot about the software.
Hmm.
And I think that in our role, a lot of times, and they come to us about sometimes they ask us the craziest things, but it's got to do with technology because they
Yeah.
look at us as that tech forward person,
Hmm.
which is a compliment, in my opinion, is a very
Yes.
big compliment to us
Yeah.
that we're that go-to person
Yeah.
because you see it all the time. You see it a lot. I hate to say this with tax professionals. They get stuck in their little bubble of what they know and
Mm-hmm.
what works, why change it. They
Hmm.
don't want to change because it seems like a big mountain they have to climb. And then they're sitting stagnant in a place
Yeah.
that if they had to sell their business when they retire, a lot of times you'll hear them say, well, I'm going to be retiring in 5 years. What do I care? You should care because, or you're going to sell your business for less. So
Pennies less. Pennies less. I mean,
pennies,
less. Yeah.
you will
Right.
sell it because
Yeah.
somebody will swoop in and go, I can modernize the heck out of this firm and get this, squeaky wheel
It,
moving more
Same
smoothly.
with law firms. It's the exact same
Yes. Oh,
thing. It depends on your marketing strategy. It depends on all of that. So when you're leveraging technology and you're looking at making this a new path for yourself,
mhm.
whether it be you're at the later end of the career and you're wanting somebody to
Yeah.
take over, or you're kind of in the middle like us, or we're, at the beginning, it's hard to know because it's a huge. It's like a bowl of cherries. I swear to God, you're like, okay, you all look a little similar, you all look a little different.
Yes.
And how do you pick? And there's no right or wrong answer. I think you do have to be a little bit more methodical. And the part that I find very interesting when you and I are looking at tech and helping a firm move,
Mhm.
we also find there's a resistance to change with key individuals. And sometimes,
Big resistance.
yeah,
Yes.
the most resistant is the one that actually adopts it faster, or they decide that this isn't going to work for them and they need to move on. And we've seen that
We've
quite a
seen it.
bit.
We've evaluated the staff after the meeting and go, I think Susie's really going to be struggling because Susie's
Yeah.
55 years old and doesn't want to do it. And then, Carrie is only 25. She's going to take to it. And then we find out later on that
Shoot.
Susie's teaching Carrie because Susie got it like that and Carrie's lost. And it's not what you think.
Yeah.
And it's always amazing to me because you do when you get resistance to change, which is normal human behavior.
Hmm.
The owner might not, one of the partners might not want to change because they're sitting there going, oh, what is this going to cost? And what about
Yeah.
the time that it's going to take? And what about when I have to do my billing and that doesn't happen when I need it to happen? Those are the real concerns of the business owner. So the
Absolutely.
cost and all of that. So, but then what is the flip side of that is what is the benefit? And when we have the conversations about what it's going to cost the firm per month with the software,
Hmm.
we have to, it's our job to kind of enlighten them on what is the benefits, what are they going to see, how is this
Yeah.
going to be time savings.
Yeah.
And I've had that with people who they'll say, why can't I just use QuickBooks? Why do I got to buy Lean Law or Clio to add to it? Why
Yeah.
can't I do what I want it to do? And then I have to explain to them that's not how the software is designed. And even if you think you don't need this software, you probably do, because just for the fact that if you make a client, you want to keep the attorneys out of the accounting. You want to put them in a space so they're logging into Clio, they're logging into Lean Law. They can only see what they can see. So now you can restrict what matters they see. So it keeps them in their lane. And then they work on it, and then they can see their billing, they can see their accounts receivable, but
Yeah.
they're not in QuickBooks. They're not touching the accounting data, which is critical. Nothing gets messed up. And then if you have to create a customer or a client, new client
Yeah.
in Clio or QuickBooks, I mean, a lien law, if say creating it in lien law, you create the new client in lien law. When I make it in lien law and I add all the details, originating attorney and
Yeah.
all, I put it all in. As soon as I create it in lien law, it shoots it over to QuickBooks. So now I've got the client, and if they have a trust account, I've got their matter, I've got their everything inside, I got the liability accounts, all with that one little setup. But if I was doing that manually, I got to go into QuickBooks, I got to create the client, I got to create the sub customer,
Hmm.
I have to create
Hmm.
the liability, I got to create the sub liability. There's a lot of steps. And when you have that many steps, that opens the door up for errors. And we always tell clients when they're like, well, why do I need it? Especially like a personal injury attorney. I'm like, the software is going to put bumper guardrails on the amount of money inside the trust account. So if
Well,
Joe Smith has $5,000 in trust,
uh-huh.
I can't write a check for $5,001 because it's not going to let me because it knows there's only 5,000 there.
Yeah.
If I'm just doing it in QuickBooks, there's nothing to stop me from giving back more than I got.
So it goes back to our thing that we always say. That's an accounting software. Why are you trying to make it a legal software?
Right.
You have to look to the
100%.
legal profession and see what's available. They probably have better workflows. They probably have form templates that you could utilize way faster and be more efficient. We know this.
Save time, save money. And not only
Exactly.
that, if you're in Clio, now you've got a place to communicate with your clients
Yes.
securely. You've got a place to store all the documents
They
securely.
can see it as a client.
And that's also
Yeah.
security, which is really, I think, the next big thing that we're
Mhm.
going to be dealing with now that we have artificial intelligence and everything else. Things are going to be even easier to fool us. Having that
Yes.
security, having that compliance
Hmm.
in place with the software, it's giving you that extra level above and beyond. And I think that's important for your clients. It's
Hmm.
important for us. It's why we use Lisio and other products to keep it out of regular email.
Well,
Those
it
are
goes back to what I mentioned earlier. There's probably some stats on the efficiency when you're taking somebody out of like a spreadsheet or no process into a process. And I'm sure there's some efficiency comparisons from uh, like legal product to another like legal product, depending on what practice area you're
And
in.
how many spreadsheets have we ever gotten where we go into the spreadsheet and look at the formulas and the formulas
They're
are wrong?
wrong.
Not picking a column up or not picking a few cells up.
Yeah.
It's like, this isn't even right. So you
Mhm.
want to have that as your baseline where I don't need the software I'm using Google Sheet? No, you don't want it.
Oh, well, that's the other thing too is there's beyond the practice management. We also have legal specific um, merchants and things
Yes.
to offer that go into the right bank accounts and that can be done correctly. And what's interesting to me is when we roll into a client's file and we find that they're utilizing, and I'm not going to name the different merchant providers, but they're utilizing unspecific ones that they shouldn't be utilizing. And they probably are breaking a few of the rules. And we know what that costs. We know what that looks like. We know that they'll get shut down, funds will get held. Why run the risk when you're doing it in a non-legal specific program? Why don't you look at what you
Oh,
need to be utilizing?
when
So
you think about it, how many clients have we run into over the years where the person will say, "Oh, I don't use that software. I just use XYZ timer."
yeah,
You're probably missing time,
you're
which is
probably
costing you money
yeah,
because you're using a hacked system
yeah.
trying to work over and patchwork pieces together. Oh, I'm using this desktop thing. No, it doesn't communicate with QuickBooks. It's separate, and I just keep it blocked off because it's separate. And why would you silo it? And then you pull a report out of that old software and pull an AR report out of QuickBooks, and they don't even match. They don't align. Well, your data is not aligned.
So the most important thing to note too is timing of retainers, right? And when
Hmm.
things can be brought in and released and
I
what you're
mean, being
taxed on.
paid. Hmm.
Like ultimately what you're taxed on too, because that's interesting. You'll get a 1099K from a merchant provider and you'll pull out your revenue and you're like, wait a minute, especially if you're using five or six different ones. That's
Yes.
a little bit of a
That's a
problem.
lot more
That's
work.
a lot of work.
You
Um,
mean like
yeah.
like using what's the ones that people use that I'm like, oh God, don't
Well,
use
we
the
often see just like what you see in a coffee shop, the
Dell.
square.
Yeah,
I don't
Square, Dell.
obviously Clover we don't see. We see a lot of time kept in and types of work being kept in this other program. I can't think of it, but that's meant for a whole different industry.
The Harvest
I
one of
think
them.
that might be one.
There's a couple of them out there
There's a
that
few.
and they're
Yeah.
using the free version. Not only that, they're
Oh,
using a cloud, but they're using the free version, which
and
is
now you're,
restricted.
what happens with free? You're just giving it to the software to take. It's like
Yeah,
AI.
the
The whole
data.
conversation about ChatGPT. Well, hello, what free means is that.
That you're yeah, they're using your data. I
Yeah.
know. So, and
So,
those are the things that they worry about coming
yeah.
off of an antiquated system and trying to go to the cloud and why they were afraid to be in the cloud. And I think that that's a bigger conversation, but most people have an iPhone. They've already done it. They've given away their data.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've done that with your phone.
Yeah.
Yes, you don't want to give your data away. They allegedly don't use it if it's masked or whatever. But I mean, in today's world, it's kind of part of what happens in life,
So
unfortunately.
if I recap for us, we have access anytime, anywhere.
Mhm.
That's one thing. Automation does equal efficiency in a lot of ways. We've
And
seen it.
accuracy.
And
And
accuracy, we've seen it. Security and compliance was a big topic for Linda and I. We're very, I mean, we can't tell you how many times we
we
get
spent a
stuff
lot of
from.
money on it.
Yeah. We also have the integration for the legal tools, so the legal tech stack, and with that AI in mind, because we're both hugely embracing it and how we can train up. We pay to play in that space, but with that in mind, looking to the tools that can help you efficiently find your case information, find the last email documentation. I know Clio's really invested heavily.
Mhm.
However, there are other programs that are coming up to that same speed. So looking at that and understanding how to utilize it. So don't be foolish on not possibly adding that subscription, I guess is what I'm saying there.
But
Um,
negotiate it.
and negotiate it, yeah. Improve your financial visibility. As I mentioned before, you can't, those reports that are in server-based stuff, there's time to pull that, take it apart. How active and accurate is that from the moment you pulled it to the moment it got sent out the door? And then when you're choosing the platforms, you've got to look at you as an firm and look at your workflows. I would implore talking to the team and asking them what would be more efficient. They probably have ideas to help you. And
Mhm.
then that would assist with the overcoming of resistance or hopefully your assets are your staff, obviously. We all know that that's every role that you have to replace is definitely costly. So if you can
Yeah, you
keep
want to put yourself in something that's not oddball, that you've never like
exactly.
never heard of, which doesn't somebody have to learn and get a skill set for. If you put somebody in like QuickBooks or a Zero platform, finding somebody to replace somebody for whatever reason is going to be a lot easier because they'll have some familiarity with the ledger system, which is important as you have
Well,
to learn the tech side.
Linda, how many times have we received the bookkeeper or our person that does all of our accounting walked out the door? They just decided they
Happens
had
all the
enough. No
Yep.
notice, they're done.
Yeah,
That's
and
a
then the
lot.
person stopping and looking at their work going, what the heck happened? And how am I going to find somebody? It's not easy to find people. So
No, no. I
don't
think it
shrink
goes
that role.
it goes to the fact that honestly, and I mean no disrespect, but this is not an appreciated role in the way it should be appreciated.
Hmm.
It's very, very much whether you have in-house or out, it's
Hmm.
treated transactionally, and that's where the deficit is for every business owner that treats this role in a transactional. You have
Hmm.
no idea the stuff that we can help produce if
Yeah.
only you engaged at a
And
much
it,
higher
it
level.
does come down to the data. I mean,
Yeah.
when you take somebody out of a clunkier system and put them in this streamlined workflow, you're going to get more data points to be able to look at and analyze. And at the end of the day, that's kind of where we all want to be so that we're able to look at our trajectory, look where we're headed, forecast where we want to be, and really analyze stuff. And I know that's one of the best parts of what we do is when we get people in a new system, we modernize their law firm. Where's my book? When you modernize the law firm workflow, you're able to be able to give a client information that they didn't know they didn't even know they had to ask for. Like you show them things and like, I didn't know I could get this out of the system. And
So
that's always very fulfilling.
speaking of modernizing, I had this crazy thought over the holiday weekend, which I find it really funny. I don't know why this popped in my head, but I was like, I wonder if I can actually get an old school phone line back in my house, if
Why?
that's even a thing. I would not for me doing it, but can you actually do that?
I don't know.
I don't think you can.
Probably not.
The phones that we used to, I remember the
Yeah, that's
cord used
plugged
to
into
go
the
around the
wall.
corner, down the hall, down the stairs.
We watched an old movie this weekend and I'm like, remember the guy had a cell phone. It was massive with the big antenna. And I'm like, oh, I remember that. It wasn't that long ago. But
80s, right? It was in the
yeah,
80s.
not, it was a
Yeah, yeah.
97 movie. So not that
Close.
long
Not
ago.
that long ago.
But then when you do the math, it actually was.
Yeah, but it's funny though. I was thinking about, and I know that it was not about like why I wanted it. I was like, I wonder if I actually can call, like who
You
would
might as
I
well get a
call?
dial phone then, Sarah, with the little
I
holes
know,
that you
I
put your
really
fingers
kind of
in.
want one just for fun, but I mean, who could I call? I have no idea.
Well, you should be able to call anybody, right? It's a phone number is a phone
You
number is a
would
phone.
think
I don't know how it would register on a phone because I don't know if it would read the number. Maybe it would. I don't know.
you can't text it. That's
I can just
hilarious.
visualize that ringing in your house and everybody going, "Where's that sound coming from?"
You could just see my pets going, what is happening in this
That
house?
ringing.
Anyways, well, that was a good show,
Yeah,
actually. Thanks.
went by fast.
That's it.
If you liked this episode, we'd love your support. Like, share, and leave us a review to help more listeners discover the show. And don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your favorite podcasts so you never miss an episode. Got a question or a topic you'd love us to cover? Reach out anytime at info@accountantslawpod.com or send us a message through our website at accountantslawpod.com. Sign up for our weekly Accountants Law Lab mastermind sessions at accountantslawlab.com and connect with accounting professionals just like you. And if you need help modernizing your law firm, pick up Linda's book, which is linked in the show notes below.
Well, it's a smattering of good stuff
I
on
love how she does
technology.
it. It's always different.
It's always like, phew.
Not a recording, everybody.
No, no, this is not a recording. That's a live thing.
Absolutely. Well, this is a good topic, and we miss you, Steve. And we'll
Yes.
see you all next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.